a classroom silence you could feel. Before the bell had properly faded, the room settled into stillness, broken only by the scrape of chair legs and the faint smell of chalk dust. We all knew what was expected, even without being told. Eyes forward, hands still. Authority seemed to arrive before the teacher did, filling the space with a quiet pressure. Today, classrooms hum with conversation and movement. But back then, silence meant order, and order meant safety. You won't believe how normal this once felt, and that quiet tells us everything about how British schools and Britain once worked. To understand why schools felt so firm, we have to step back into post-war Britain itself. The country was rebuilding, families were finding their feet, and order was valued as much as comfort. Authority was trusted, not debated, and schools mirrored that belief every single day. Parents handed responsibility to teachers without hesitation, believing structure shaped character. Morning assemblies set the tone. Rows were straight, uniforms carefully pressed, shoes polished until they shone. Neat handwriting mattered because it showed effort and pride. Routine was reassuring in a world still marked by rationing memories and careful planning. Rules weren't just school rules, they were life rules. Resilience was quietly taught through expectation. You were meant to listen, remember, and get on with things. Questions were saved for later if they were asked at all. Teachers were figures of certainty, representing stability in changing times. Looking back now, it's striking how naturally everyone accepted this system, rarely stopping to imagine it could be any other way. And that unquestioned acceptance shaped generations before change slowly arrived. It formed the backdrop of childhood, where predictability felt comforting, and the wider world seemed orderly, understandable, and firmly held together by shared expectations everyone recognized. Most people today have forgotten just how unquestioned this system was. In classrooms across Britain, the rules didn't need posters or long explanations. You absorbed them the moment you walked in. Sit properly, speak when invited, line up without fuss. It wasn't harshness as much as habit, built day after day until it felt natural. Desks faced forward in quiet rows, exercise books stacked neatly, coats hung just so. Good behavior was noticed publicly, a name mentioned with approval, a nod that carried surprising weight. That small recognition mattered because everyone understood the hierarchy. Teachers led, pupils followed, and the structure rarely wobbled. There was little discussion about feelings or fairness. Behavior was shaped through routine, repetition, and the understanding that consequences followed choices. You learned quickly what earned praise and what earned disappointment, and most adjusted without question. Looking back, it feels astonishing how smoothly it all ran, powered by shared expectations rather than conversation. Today, schools talk openly about expression and individuality. Back then, fitting in was the lesson beneath every lesson. And yet, for many, that predictability created a strange kind of security, quietly preparing children for the wider world ahead that waited beyond the school gates. Looking back, it's clear those classrooms didn't stay behind when the school gates closed. They followed people into adulthood, shaping how a whole generation saw authority, work, and themselves. For some, the structure brought confidence. Clear rules meant clear expectations, and knowing where you stood could be oddly reassuring. Others remember a quieter tension, a worry about getting things wrong, a habit of staying silent rather than standing out. Obedience and order were the guiding stars then, and many carried that mindset into offices, factories, and homes. Today, schools encourage conversation, emotional awareness, and questioning. Children are invited to explain how they feel, not just what they know. Neither approach tells the whole story alone. The past offered stability and shared standards. The present offers understanding and flexibility. What matters most is recognizing how deeply those early experiences settled in. They shaped voices, confidence, and caution in equal measure. Eventually, this change didn't happen overnight, and many didn't realize it was happening at all. At first, schools looked much the same corridors, the same bells, the same exercise books. But beneath the surface, attitudes were shifting. Researchers began asking new questions about how children learned, not just how they behaved. Families changed too, becoming more open, more vocal, more involved. Teachers started listening in different ways. Guidance replaced instruction. Explanation slowly joined expectation. What once felt fixed and permanent began to soften, almost unnoticed, lesson by lesson. There was no single announcement, no dramatic moment where everything turned. Instead, the old certainty quietly faded. By the late 20th century, classrooms felt different, still orderly but gentler, still purposeful but more human. Looking back, it's remarkable how easily the old ways slipped into memory, replaced by something new before anyone thought to say goodbye to the past forever. What we remember often isn't the rules themselves, but how the place made us feel. The smell of polish on wooden floors, the echo of footsteps in long corridors, the quiet pride of seeing your work praised. Time softens the edges, smoothing sharper moments into something easier to hold. Yet some memories linger differently. A tight feeling before lessons began, the relief when the day ended without trouble. Both can exist together, and neither cancels the other out. Memory isn't a ledger of right and wrong. It's a collection of moments that shaped us. Looking back now, with distance and perspective, it becomes clear that school didn't just teach lessons, it shaped who we became. Confidence for some, caution for others. And for many, a mixture of both. These experiences live on quietly, influencing how we listen, speak, and respond long after childhood fades into history for us all. So, would it ever work today? It's hard to imagine modern classrooms returning to that kind of quiet authority because the world itself has changed. Children grow up faster, voices are encouraged earlier, and understanding matters as much as order. Today's schools respond to different pressures, different hopes, and different fears. Looking back isn't about wishing for a return, but about recognizing the journey. Each generation builds with the tools and values it has at the time, not better or worse, just different. For more of these unbelievable memories, tap the video on your screen. The 1970s stories are something else. Don't forget to subscribe.